Welcome. We're so excited to have you join us for this recording of the Strongest Families Institute. It's an organization that if it was around when my kids were little, we definitely would have used it. It's been very helpful to so many people, and I'd like to introduce you to Elizabeth Hines, who is the Coaching and Military Service Director and our presenter for tonight on Strongest Families Institute. Over to you.
Thanks, Margaret. Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I am the Coaching Services Director, as Margaret mentioned, at Strongest Families. I'm also the Director of our Military Services Department as well. And so I'm going to be chatting with you this evening a little bit about the Strongest Families Institute and what we do and the programs that we offer for military and veteran families. I will apologize in advance for my cold that I have and my scratchy voice and my occasional pauses to cough, and perhaps also for my dog barking in the background, depending on how this recording goes. But I'm looking forward to giving some information to share about the programs for folks who might not know about Strongest Families. We also have Christine joining us as well from the Halifax and Region MFRC, so I'll pass it over to you to introduce yourselves as well.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much. So as Elizabeth mentioned, my name's Christine Van Kooten. I'm the Intake and Caseload Coordinator for the Mental Health and Wellbeing team at the Halifax and Region Military Family Resource Center. So we offer short-term supportive counseling within our team with social workers, and we offer a lot of other things to support families within the MFRC as well. But I'm usually the first point of contact if you're calling for counseling or support services, or if you have questions about what sort of supports we offer families or anything related to childcare, all those lovely things come through me. So if you're in the Halifax region, or you are traveling, or you have family that are in the area of Halifax and you're looking for supports, then please feel free to contact the H&R MFRC and ask for intake, and you'll be directed to me. I'll be happy to help.
We'll have some of that information about reaching out to the Halifax MFRC as well as to Strongest Families a little bit later in the presentation.
Thanks.
So we will get started talking a little bit about the basics of Strongest Families. I'll go over a couple of the things on this slide that we'll get into more detail as we move our way through tonight's presentation. But for anyone who has kind of no background information on Strongest Families, we are a nonprofit distance mental health education program. So we offer bilingual services to families with behavior or anxiety concerns. Tonight we're going to be talking primarily about military and veteran families accessing the services, but we do offer programs through provincial and civilian sources as well in many places across Canada. We're going to cover lots of details about the specific programs as we move our way along, but all of our programs are evidence-based. And our outcomes have all been proven in clinical randomized trials. So we are really kind of outcome focused and wanting to be sure that families are receiving a great service. A big part of why Strongest Families exists is to remove some of the barriers that families can sometimes face when reaching out for mental health services. And so because of that, all Strongest Families programs are delivered by distance with a telephone coaching session. And that means that there's no need for families to travel, to take time off work, or to take kids out of school. There's no cost for families to participate or to pay for gas money or parking money or to take time off work, like I mentioned. There's no need for families to miss any of those sorts of things. As Margaret just mentioned there's also no wait for families to get started with the program. And that kind of distance education program, that kind of distance service delivery model, we know really helps to eliminate some of the stigma that unfortunately can come when reaching out for these types of services as well. Our coaches are delivering these programs to families at times that are convenient for them. So here in Halifax, where the majority of our coaches are working. We have coaches that are working until 1 or sometimes even 2 in the morning local time here to offer a variety of both day and night appointments for families for whatever's most convenient for them in the comfort and privacy of their own homes. And that makes it really easy for families to access the service at a time that works well for them. We're going to discuss this further as we move our way along here, but Strongest Families, like I mentioned, is really dedicated to maintaining high outcomes for families and ensuring that families are receiving a great service. So a big part of what we exist, those last 2 bullets there, talk a little bit about measuring our outcomes and being sure that that families' progress through the course of the program is monitored and that everyone's getting that quality service. So we'll talk a little bit about the 3 main types of programs that Strongest Families offers, and again, get into a little bit more detail about each of these programs as we move our way through the slides. The first sort of stream of programming is our behavior-based programs. So that program is called Parents Empowering Kids, and it's available for parents with children aged 3 to 12. And that program, as it mentions there, is focusing on increasing pro-social behavior, decreasing antisocial behavior, and really focusing on overcoming some of the challenges that families may be facing with behavior concerns like cooperation issues, aggression or conduct concerns, arguing, temper tantrums, talking back, those sorts of generalized behavior concerns. We'll dig in a little bit more as we go along. The second stream of programming is our anxiety stream, and I'm noticing this typo as Margaret has points to it. What that's supposed to say is 6 to 17. Thank you very much. 6 to 17 are our primary programming. We have 2 programs for children and youth for anxiety. The younger program is called Chase Worries Away. That's for children age about 6 to 12, and the older program is called Defeat Anxiety, and that's the program that's available for children and youth age 13 to 17. And again, I've got some specific information as we make our way along. And so those programs, both the parents and the children participate in the weekly phone calls, and they learn some relaxation and coping strategies, as well as a focus on exposure to those sorts of situations that may be causing them some worry, like, for example, separation concerns or performance worries about school or sports or social situations, or specific kind of phobias that may be causing children and youth some worry in their daily lives, and helping them to make those situations a little bit more easier to cope with. The last stream of programming is the nighttime bedwetting program, and that's available for parents with children age 5 to 12, and that is a focus on nighttime only bedwetting, and that uses a urine alarm to help train a child's brain to notice those early signs that they need to go to the washroom, or those first signs of wetness, and to wake up to help with that concern. These programs are listed in this order for a reason. We often encourage parents to start with the behavior program if there are both behavior and anxiety or bedwetting concerns, to get some of those behavior and cooperation concerns under control first, when it's just the parent participating in those weekly phone calls, before we would move on to the anxiety programs, for example, where both the parent and the children would be involved in the weekly calls. I do have a little stripe at the bottom there that talks a little bit about the adult anxiety program that we've just launched, called the I CAN, Conquer Nervousness and Anxiety Program, I CAN for short. And it notes there that it is available in some provinces. Although the I CAN program is not officially offered as part of our military contract, and something that the MFRCs are sending a lot of referrals for, in Nova Scotia, the adult anxiety program is provincially funded, and so it is available for adults in Nova Scotia, age 18 plus. And so if that is something that is of interest to you or to your family, certainly please feel free to reach out to me so that we can help to facilitate a referral in one way or another to that program. But that is a very similar program in a lot of ways to our youth program. It still has a focus on coping strategies, relaxation strategies, and exposure to those kind of daily situations that may be causing an adult some work. The other part of this slide talks a little bit about the way that the program is delivered. So all of the programs, the clients have an option to either receive a physical handbook, a paper handbook, or to access all of the written material online through our platform called Iris, which you can see there. I'm sorry, I'm putting a cough drop in my mouth, so if you can hear that, it's my attempt to not cough at you. But Iris is our proprietary information management software, and so it is the tool that we use to allow you to have access to all of the online material and audios and videos and all of that online material, or like I mentioned, families also have the option to choose to get those things, a paper handbook and videos and audio sent out to them instead, whichever they prefer. Some of the programs as well have an option for how the coaching method is delivered. So with both the behavior and the youth anxiety program, families have an option of choosing either a one-on-one coaching session between themselves and the coach, or a group-based coaching option where it would be one coach and a group of usually 8 to 10 parents if it was the adult program, and usually a smaller group if it was the youth anxiety program, where the coach would lead the group through the same materials and set up goals. But we get really positive feedback about those group options for families. It's often nice for clients to hear that they're not alone in some of the challenges that they're facing, and so that is an option that we have for some of the programming as well. So this next slide just talks a little bit about how Strongest Families works. I mentioned that all of our programs are offered through distance telephone coaching, so families are given one skill-based session per week. They're assigned to a coach, which we'll talk a little bit about, and they do one session a week, and usually the programs are between 10 to 12 skill-based sessions. So overall, we look at about 16 sessions total for a family, including their initial screening questionnaire. We do have a consent process so that families know what they're getting themselves into, and then those 10 to 12 sessions, and then a final questionnaire as well, so that we can see the changes that families have seen through the course of the program. We also do something that is labeled here as a booster, but essentially that just means that we do a 1-month follow-up with families once they've kind of gone off on their own to use the skills, to ensure that they don't have any questions as they finish up the program. So for families, the main purpose here is for them to have one skill-based session a week and to work on practicing that skill, setting up some goals, making sure that we're matching the skills and the goals that we're setting to the issues or concerns that a family might be having, and working on that goal and then checking back in with their coach and setting up some new goals to hopefully overcome some of those concerns that they may have. I'll talk a little bit about the coaches. I get lots of questions about the coaches, but at the core, the coach's role is to lead the parents through those weekly sessions to reinforce the information that they're learning in the online material and as they set up goals together, and to problem solve with the family to be sure that we're working on goals to overcome some of those concerns that they might be having. Our coaches are incredibly wonderful people with a really varied background. Our coaches are not all clinicians. I get questions about that often. Our coaches are coming to us with a variety of backgrounds, like I mentioned, often with experience working with children and youth and families, usually with some education background in mental health or family services or counseling, lots of different backgrounds. And because we're an evidence-based program and because the training is really extensive in-house on delivering this particular set of skills and this particular program, our coach's primary role is to deliver this curriculum to families and then to encourage and support them to achieve the goals that they've set up together. So I mentioned a little bit earlier in the slides, we're very focused on outcomes and very focused on data. So our Iris software allows us to put some real-time data entry in, allows our coaches to work really effectively, and it allows us to be sure that all of the families that our coaches are working with are together and that we're able to be sure that they're progressing in the way that we would expect. I do want to talk a little bit before we move on to information about the specific programs, about some of the additional training that coaches receive when they're working with military and veteran families. So all of our coaches, like I mentioned, are trained to deliver this programming to families across the country, but the coaches that we have working with military families get some additional sort of cultural competency training around some of the transitions that we know are a pretty common part of this lifestyle. I often say I'm a military spouse myself, so I understand some of these challenges and transitions that are a regular part of life for military families. So we talk and do some additional training with coaches around these transitions like postings, training requirements, deployment, reintegration. And the goal here is not to change the basics of the program. It's still the same skills that families are receiving, but our goal here is to help families to be on the same page, to increase that kind of relationship between the family and the parents if it's a two-parent household, and to try to prevent some of those big swings that we know can happen with behavior or anxiety when these types of transitions are a part of regular life. So the idea here is to just give some skills and to get folks on the same page as much as possible. We really work hard when it comes to military families to have families and parents on the same page as much as possible if it is a two-parent household. So we work hard to do that in whatever way we can. So if that means offering some additional makeup sessions or calling parents in from 2 different parts of the country or even 2 different parts of the world, or sending extra materials to a family member who may be in a different area than the kind of primary parent who's receiving the program, we really will kind of work with the family to try to be sure that this information is being shared with all the parents or all the caregivers as much as possible. I'm going to share a video next, and this is part of a larger video that was produced by one of our primary sponsors and funders, which is the True Patriot Love Foundation. And it's kind of snippet of, like I said, of a larger video outlining some of the programs that they help to support, and one of those, of course, is Strongest Families. So I'm going to get Margaret to help me here. And so we do need everyone to mute. It looks like everyone is muted, and I will mute as well, and then we will play this video. Everyone heard everything okay there?
Yes.
Yep.
Like I mentioned, a really compelling story about a family who completed the program and saw some significant changes in their family. So I'm going to jump into talking a little bit about the individual programs. I won't spend too much time here because we have talked a bit about each of the programs, but just to give a little bit more background on each of the programs that we offer. So the first program, like I mentioned, is the behavior program. It's called Parents Empowering Kids. It's developed from a parenting program that already existed that was developed by Dr. Chuck Cunningham called the COPE program, if anyone has heard about that. And that allowed us to kind of adapt what was already an evidence-based and clinically proven program to deliver that with our kind of distance coaching model. And like I mentioned, we're going to focus on concerns like cooperation issues, attention and routine issues, defiance, conduct concerns like aggression and destruction, increasing those pro-social behavior and increasing kind of antisocial behaviors that we mentioned earlier on. This program, it is also important to know, is developed and was clinically tested around concerns around ADHD and ADD, as well as oppositional defiant disorder and conduct disorders. So when Strongest Families was in research, the families who participated in the program, the children needed to have a diagnosis of one of those concerns. So we know that the programs are effective with those diagnoses in play. That's not required anymore. A diagnosis isn't required to gain access to the program. We do just look for families to be experiencing some regular behavior concerns that are impacting their day-to-day life. Sorry, just gonna try to take a sip of water so I don't cough in everyone's ears. Like I mentioned, this program is available for parents with children aged 3 to 12, and this program has those 12 skill-based sessions, so one session a week, and that's usually the case, one session a week, and going through those 12 skill-based sessions. This program, like I mentioned, is also available either with that one-on-one option or the group option with it. The next program that I'll go into a little more detail about are the anxiety programs. So Chase Worries Away is that first image that you'll see there, the younger program, and then Defeat Anxiety is the older program. So 6 to 11 or 12 for Chase Worries Away, and 12, 13 to 17 for Defeat Anxiety. These programs fundamentally are fairly similar. It's really just the look of the books and the materials and the examples that go out to children and youth who participate in the program in the written material, so that it's more applicable for the kids who are participating in the program. In this program, both the parents and the child or youth participate in those weekly phone calls, and as it mentions there, it targets concerns around separation worries, social worries around school and friends, performance worries around sports or school, generalized kind of future worries or specific fears. And both of these programs focused on a combination of relaxation strategies like breathing exercises and imagery and positive thinking strategies, as well as that focus, like I mentioned, on exposure to a situation that might be causing the child some worry. We use a gradual exposure method, and that means that, for example, if a child has some significant concerns around separating from a parent, we would start with really small goals around some simple separation, maybe playing in the backyard while mom or dad is inside, and working toward perhaps a much larger goal of a parent going out for the evening, as we give a child more and more strategies and tools to work our way toward a larger goal like that. Oh, I can feel you can feel the coughing coming on. I really apologize. I know this is a recording. As the pointer is referring to there, our goal is to have families go through at least 2 full exposure plans through the course of the program to be sure that they're feeling ready to face some of those anxiety-causing situations as they finish up. This is a little video that shows a little bit about the youth interface for our Defeat Anxiety program. So I'm going to show this video as well, so if everyone could mute, and it will give you a little bit of an insight as to the IRIS program. So the last program that I'll mention briefly that I mentioned earlier as well is the nocturnal enuresis, or the nighttime bedwetting program. This is available for parents with children aged 5 to 12 and targets primary enuresis, which is the nighttime bedwetting, where that is occurring at least 2 days of the week. As I mentioned, this uses a urine alarm. If you're not familiar with something like that, it's a really sensitive alarm that clips into a child's underwear and alarms at the first signs of wetness, as I mentioned, to kind of train a child's brain to wake up during those times. That program does often go in a group of parents if there are a group of parents who are looking to participate at the same time. And it's a little more self-mediated than some of the other programs because children move at their own pace in this program. So it goes through a series of milestones that start from just waking up to the alarm into a process of overtraining. And our goal there is to have at least 1 month of dry nights. The last program I'm going to mention just really briefly, like I said, is the Adult Anxiety Program. This I'm going quickly through this program because, like I mentioned, it's not officially offered with this military contract, although it is available in Nova Scotia So I did want to be sure that folks knew that it existed. It is fundamentally our same anxiety program. So adults are learning skills to overcome some of those major stressors and those parts of their day-to-day life that may be causing them some anxiety, similar to youth around performance or social concerns. They get the same kind of written information, or they can access that material online. The adult anxiety program has all of those same tools and some additional things that we know are added to the regular stressors of adult life. So there are some things around sleep hygiene, self-care, anger management, pain management, budgeting, finances, problem solving, that sort of thing. So some additional tools that are part of this program that wouldn't be part of the child and youth programs as well. So like I mentioned, if this is something that's interesting to you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me so that we can help to point you in the right direction to access this program. I'd like to talk a little bit about the outcomes from Strongest Families. We are very much data-driven at Strongest Families, and I mentioned want to be sure that our outcomes remain really strong. We consistently have a greater than 85% outcome success rate. So I mentioned earlier that, I'm so sorry. I mentioned earlier that we do a pre and post screening questionnaire when families come to the program and then when they finish the program. And so that outcome success is based on resolving those concerns that they identified when they started the program. So our benchmark, our average outcome success is consistently greater than 85%. I believe this year we're hovering at around 91% outcome success rate for both military and civilian contracts. Our attrition rate is consistently lower than 10%. Last year it was about 7%. This year it's looking to be even lower. So what that means is that families who engage in the program with us, who get started into coaching services, are completing the program. Less than 10% drop out of the program once they've started. We also have very high client satisfaction. One of the parts of the post-screening questionnaire is to ask families about how satisfied they were with the services that they received from Strongest Families, and that continually is above 95% as well, usually more like 99% satisfaction with the program. The things that it talks about at the bottom of this slide talk about impact and improvement. Impact and improvement on academic progress. We're seeing certainly some improvements, especially with youth, around academic progress, grades in school, and school attendance. And then we also see quite an impact on bullying and victimization concerns, especially with our behavior program. So both improvements in children who were bullying others as well as children who were being bullied, that both of those things are impacted positively by those programs. It also talks there about strong impacts on family functioning and parental mood. We see often big changes and improvements for families in their overall functioning as a family, and improvements in their quality of relationships, both with their children and with their partner, again, if it's a two-parent household. Just some other interesting facts about the work that Strongest Families is doing. Some information that we have here about the demographics of families that we are working with. 32%, about a third of the families that we work with, have an annual income of under $30,000. And more than 60% of families are single parents that we are working with. That middle section there is talking about anxiety and depression. And one of the questions we often get are around depression in particular. So our anxiety program isn't necessarily designed to deal with primary depression, but we know that anxiety and depression often go hand in hand. And we saw that 87% of the what those numbers mean is that, 38% of the youth who participated in the anxiety program had significant depression concerns as well as the behavior concerns, and that 87% of those youth saw that both the anxiety and depression concerns were resolved with participation in our youth anxiety program. We're also seeing some big improvements in sleep issues and sleep hygiene, and a reduction in screen time, especially in youth as well. That last box on this slide talks about a number of the communities that we're working with and seeing strong outcomes in First Nations communities across Canada, strongly working with the LGBTQ community and seeing some significant improvements and some wonderful stories from that community as well, especially with the anxiety programs as well. I'm so sorry, folks. The last thing that I wanted to mention, just part of this slide, is around some of those comorbidities or diagnoses that families may be experiencing. We talked a little bit about ADHD and oppositional defiant disorder or conduct disorders, but Strongest Families programs are also appropriate for families who have children with another type of perhaps neurodevelopmental or medical disorder, things like autism spectrum disorder or fetal alcohol syndrome, FASD, or as well as a number of kind of medical concerns. So if there are any of those kind of comorbid concerns or multiple diagnoses in play, then certainly do feel free to reach out. Strongest Families may definitely still be a good fit. To give my voice a little bit of a break, I'm going to share some experiences and some audio clips here with you from some military families who have participated in the program. So the first audio clip here is from a parent who completed the behavior program. So I'm going to flip to that audio.
Do you want me to read the quote for you?
Sure, yeah. Do you want to do that first? We can read the quote.
Sure. So the quote from a parent who completed the behavior program: "My expertise with the Strongest Families program was really positive and amazing. It helped us to get all the tools we needed in one place. It helped our parenting on a huge level, and the results are amazing. I find the biggest thing that was helpful as a military family, because my husband was gone through quite a few of the weeks of the calls, is that I could still do them, and you guys did a catch-up to make sure that he was all caught up, one-on-one with my husband. In the military line of things, it's helpful because you have someone who holds you accountable while you're home by yourself. This program was exactly what we needed. Thank you."
And then a quick audio clip here. Again, that one that Margaret read, thank you, is from a parent who completed the behavior program, and so is this audio clip as well. So I'll play this for you, and we can mute her line so that works. The next audio clip that I'd like to share with you, again, just to get some voices other than just mine, talking about experiences with the Strongest Families program, is a parent who completed both programs. So like I mentioned, we do sometimes have families who complete multiple programs. So in this situation, the mother completed the behavior program, and then they went on to complete, the youth went on to complete the anxiety program as well. So this is her experience. To unmute. I'll make sure that I'm unmuted before I start talking again. The last audio clip that I'd like to share with you is an audio from both a parent and did the anxiety program, and they, so I have a clip both from the parent and from the child. As you've seen on the slides, all of these audio clips and quotes have been shared with permission from the families who shared them. This first clip is from the mother explaining her experience with the program, and then the second clip is from the child, and I'll give a little bit of context to that clip. In this particular situation, the child who participated in the program have had some significant anxiety increases after dad had been deployed suddenly, to the point where he was unwilling to kind of even talk to his coach about his father being in the military. And so what he shares with his coach in this clip is quite heartwarming. So I will play the child first, and then we can listen to mom's experience. I'm going to pause and go back because I did them in the wrong order. So now I'm going to try to play the child first. And then, like I mentioned, this last audio clip is just from the mother, the mother of the young boy that we just heard talking about her experiences. Great. I'm going to chat a little bit about the sort of inclusion criteria for the Strongest Families program. We have talked about lots of these things already as we've made our way through the presentation. So again, I won't take too much time here. We've talked about the age requirements for the program, but I will say that those age requirements can be somewhat soft. So if you feel that there is a situation or the developmental age of a child is kind of younger than perhaps their chronological age, lots of those things can be flexible. So certainly if you have questions about those age limits, then certainly feel free to reach out and ask away about any of those questions. We do ask that families have been experiencing kind of mild to moderate symptoms, either behavior or anxiety symptoms, for at least 6 months, and that those concerns are impacting the family's day-to-day life. However, I always give a big disclaimer when it comes to military and veteran families for this particular 6-month criteria. If you are a military family who, for example, is preparing for a new posting, and the last posting brought a lot of anxiety or a lot of behavior concerns, and it's now time for the next posting and you're starting to see some of those concerns come back again, we will make those types of exceptions even if it hasn't been 6 months that you've been seeing those sorts of concerns. So again, if this feels like the right fit, then we would just encourage you to reach out and ask those kinds of questions. And then the final thing in terms of it being the right fit for families is just to know that this is a commitment for families. It's 10 to 12 weeks of skill-based sessions, so you are looking at about 3 to 4 months of those weekly calls. It can be up to 5 months while we do the screening questionnaires and get through all of those sessions. And we know life is busy for families, and we may not always get a call in every single solitary week. So understanding that it is a commitment, that there are going to be those weekly telephone calls and materials to read and goals to complete every week, just to be sure that that feels like something that you can put onto your plate at this point, and know that it is somewhat of a commitment. The exclusionary criteria, I won't spend too much time on. As I mentioned, we are an education program, so any of those sorts of concerns about imminent risk, or harm to themselves or others are things that would be outside of the parameters for the Strongest Families program. In terms of getting access to the program, getting a referral to the Strongest Families program, Families can be referred either through their local MFRC, so here in Halifax, that's through the Halifax and Region MFRC, but we are available to military families across the country through any MFRC across Canada, as well as to families posted without CAN. So available to military and veteran families wherever they may be, so through their local MFRCs. So the number for the Halifax and Region MFRC is there. And like we mentioned, we have Christine joining us as well. Her name is there on the side, Christine Van Putten, who is joining us from the intake team there. So you can certainly feel free to reach out to her through that number that's listed there for the Halifax and Region MFRC and ask for intake. And she can help you to be referred to the Strongest Families program, or you can also contact Strongest Families directly, and we can help you to get that referral to the program that you feel is the right fit for you. When families are referred, we do work to get families started as quickly as possible. We are committed to reaching out with families within 24 to 48 business hours of a referral coming through. We work hard to contact families, so we try following up with families at various time points. We will send a difficulty contacting letter. If we can't reach you, we'll send an email if we have an email address for you. So we really do try hard to make that contact when the referral comes in. And then, like I mentioned, we do that initial screening questionnaire to determine some of the challenges that a family might be facing and to make a recommendation for which program we feel is the best fit, and you may feel is the best fit for the challenges that you may be facing, and then you would be assigned for a coach to start into your coaching sessions. And like I mentioned, we work to have coaches available at many different time points so that we can find a coach that will be available at a time that works best for you, for a family. I won't spend too much time here bragging, but I will say that Strong Families has won a number of awards and been recognized on multiple occasions by the Mental Health Commission of Canada and the Governor General Innovation Award and the Manning Foundation. So if you'd like some more information on some of these awards that Strongest Families has been recognized with, there's lots of information on our website, which is listed there at the top of the page. And it's also listed on this page, which is our final question with some of the information about where to follow us online and the website there again. And I will just pause. I know that we don't have too many folks on the actual line tonight, and most folks are viewing this as a recording, but are there any questions before we finish up tonight?
Yeah, I just had one question. You mentioned earlier about bringing parents together from distances to sort of co-parent on some of the issues that families might be working on. I was just wondering how you do that, or if you're able to do, let's say, a conference call or something like that. If, let's say, there was a parent at home with children somewhere in Canada and their partner was abroad, what does that look like?
Yeah, we would work with the family as much as possible to include another parent if that was something that was possible. We know that often when members are posted or deployed, that it's not always possible for them to join at a regular appointment time on a weekly basis. But that might, like I said, that might look like us sending some additional information or giving more access to the online information for for a family, excuse me, for a member who might be away. If it's possible for us to kind of conference a family member in either within or outside of Canada, then we can look into doing that either through a telephone conferencing bridge or through kind of an online platform as well. We've also had situations where a family member has completed the program while one parent has been deployed, and when that parent returns, we've done some kind of makeup sessions with the parent who had been away for the majority of the call. So doing kind of a brief version of the program and getting them some of the core skills when they return. We are fairly flexible on that, but really do try hard, like I mentioned, to be able to get both parents on the same page in whatever way that's possible.
I think Christine might have been talking about the group counseling with 8 to 10 families.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Actually, I think you had it right there. The original question, I was just wondering for individual couples that are separated by distance and trying to kind of co-parent that way. But I did have a question about, you answered my question, so thank you. Okay. But I did have a question too about the group sessions. So if everything is offered through distance, how do the group sessions work?
So they're also delivered over kind of a conferencing bridge, sort of something similar to what we're doing now. So it would just be a phone-in conferencing bridge, so families would call into a toll-free line. There wouldn't be any cost for them associated with that. And then, like I mentioned, the coach would lead those families through the group. We often see those families get quite attached to one another as the weeks go on, sharing in some of their successes and challenges and tips and tricks on what's working and what's not working. And so they would all call in together to a conferencing bridge.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and I really appreciate you giving us all this great information. We'll be sure to send it out to each of the MFRCs so they can share it to their community. And we're having a French session next week, so we'll have that recorded as well, and quite exciting. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. You're changing lives.
You're very, very welcome. If anyone has any questions about the programs or the referral process, again, you're very welcome to reach out to the MFRC or reach out to Strongest Families directly. My email address is there on the screen in the red box as well, and certainly happy to answer any specific questions that folks might have. Thank you for taking a little bit of time to hear about the program, and I apologize again for my scratchy coffee voice, but I'm hopeful that this information was helpful for folks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.